Welcome, Allan, with coming on the show today, man. How's it going for you?
It's going good. Another beautiful day here in Denver, Colorado, and I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, man. Can't complain. Well, I'm definitely excited for this conversation. I'm glad that we got a chance to connect through one of our mutual friends. And this is your first podcast appearance, is
Yeah,
it?
it's my first time actually getting out there and talking about what we got going on. I've been urged to do so, so here I am.
Man, that's solid, bro. Well, I'm honored to be able to have you come on and share your expertise. So to get things started off here, can you kind of share with the world a little bit about your background and actually what motivated you to get into the sustainability business?
What motivated me was first and foremost was that I wanted to kind of make a name for myself in an industry, but one where I can kind of have an edge in the industry. And I've background is cultivation, and food, cannabis, the cannabis plant. But I found myself saturated amongst a lot of different individuals that had similar skill sets. So to kind of differentiate myself from the rest, I kind of saw how I had this sustainable focus, and I thought that I could use that as my edge in the industry and separate myself from those who are already 10 years ahead of me. So that's how I kind of caught up. And, I'm originally from North Carolina. Uh, I've done quite a bit of traveling, and that kind of gave me a kind of open mind when talking about, um, what what supply chains were needed to be, developed. That's what kind of got me into value chain development, and using the sustainability aspect really helped me hold my own weight in different conversations and sit at tables with those who I might not would have if I didn't have a sustainable mindset. So it's kind of helped me. I kind of caught the wave before it was a wave, and that's what you have to do.
Yeah, and one thing that I can notice from just your brands online, with Ecomarketplace and even with the acquisition of carbon emissions, it seems to be that they all are very cohesive around just health, agriculture, and just sustainability with making the world more self-sufficient and carbon neutral. Can you kind of take some time to explain what the goals are with your business models, and then also kind of just explaining what are the different purposes between the two?
Yes, I can. When talking about my business and the carbon neutral approach is something that obviously, a lot of people are hearing and seeing on TV now, commercials, and a lot of people are offering consulting in those arenas, but in those areas. But for me, what I saw was an opportunity to actually not just talk about it, but actually offer products that could actually help you reduce your carbon footprint, but not in a way where you have to kind of change what you're doing. It's all about really using a product that you can kind of as an alternative, right? These are carbon neutral alternatives that can help with your everyday lifestyle. And it's all about the human experience, and trying to better the human experience completely, whether it's with health and wellness products that we do offer, but also it's the environment that you live in and the community that you're in, and how do you affect and interact with your community. And these are things that we are more aware of now because of things like COVID and the pandemic. So, we've seen supply chain difficulties, and and we people are starting to look more for the community and where they're getting their food and where they're getting their products. And when you couldn't find toilet paper, maybe, if it wasn't coming from another country, maybe it's coming from somewhere regionally, and these is kind of gave us the concept of these um, almost microgrid micro communities that are self-sufficient, and promoting that type of aspect so that people can really kind of take charge of their own environment and have a say in where they want to go and where life's going to take them, and their lifestyle choices are going to allow them to do so. And if you give people the opportunity and the resources to take charge, most people seem to find that will to do so.
Yes, I think the products that you have, especially with Ecomarketplace, how, when I got a chance to go through the website, I love how it has a foundation of the hemp products as far as the main ingredient of what you're using for a lot of the sustainability, and just the options are it's a very good variety of options, whether you're talking about straws, flooring, shoes, any type of plotting mix that you actually put in soil. And I think that people have to understand that having that control over your production of your food is just so important, because, like you mentioned, a lot of times, I feel, at least in my opinion, with like grocery stores, it's not necessarily always the healthiest option. So if you can really learn the process of just the growing and the cultivating aspect of crops in your own food, that really can give you ultimate control with just survival. No matter what happens, you can make sure that you and your family eat, and you can be able to produce for yourself. So can you kind of speak on that? I know that you have a cultivating background, so can you kind of explain the importance of someone learning how to grow their own crops, and essentially how essential that is to just be more conscious of just the environment, and really how you are growing your food?
Well, yes, I can. Basically, when talking about food, it's always something that I always want to stay very simplistic. It's almost have a simple type of approach to it when it comes to growing your own food, because it doesn't have to be a huge farm with a bunch of of one crop growing in a whole acre. It could be your backyard in a simple greenhouse that could allow you to kind of supplement some of the produce or perishables that you may get from the grocery store, that you can kind of control your nutrients that's entering your body. And when I was saying earlier with kind of controlling or taking charge with the human experience, your environment, knowing that you can save yourself some money, even growing some food in your backyard, or maybe it's not even your backyard. Maybe you don't have a backyard. Maybe it is a grandma that has half a quarter acre in the backyard, and you go to see your grandma every month, or and you're harvesting and picking certain crops that you've been growing. And we kind of offer fertilizer. We offer fertilizer that's kind of like a one fits all type of solution to growing multiple crops. We talk about growing tomatoes, talking about growing greens, a lot of greens, but then also herbs, natural herbs that can help benefit with multitude of ailments that may come up, and just being not so much dependent on pharmaceutical products, but also being able to utilize what's given to us, what we can grow in ourselves to kind of heal ourselves, especially and that's once again part of the human experience, is like offering these alternatives that are available. And everyone has Google now, everyone has access to the information they need to prepare these type of meals that may be something you grow, or, we even offer a cleanse for when your product is already done and you need to remove all the microbial that may be on the on your food when you harvest it. Even if we even offer a cleanse, so if you do go to the grocery store and you do want to make sure your product or the food that you bought is microbial free, we offer different solutions in that aspect also, to just completely offer the most sustainable, healthiest approach to concept of the human experience and bettering our environment and taking charge. When you grow your own food, there's something therapeutic about it. It's something that, when you actually can eat something that you grew, and it depends on the climate that you're in, the region, but usually a greenhouse will allow you to grow pretty much anything you want to grow. There's very few exceptions when it comes to that. Depends on how big the greenhouse is, right? So, and they're not that expensive nowadays. You can even get finance for greenhouses now. So you probably always could have gotten. These resources and opportunities are presented to us, and we should take advantage of them. There's some grants out there for greenhouses also. And it's just those who want to take charge will just need to be pointed in the right direction most of the time. And, I love doing that. That's what brings me joy, is being honestly able to help people get to where they're going and kind of taking back the control that, a lot of times we didn't know was available to us. So that's pretty much how I would approach the food aspect. And then also trying alternative foods, like alternative medicines. I'm a big proponent of utilizing cannabinoids. And we've seen cannabinoids like CBG affect the body with COVID. And I've personally worked with certain cannabinoids that help with different ailments, different clinical trials that have done that's shown that helps with losing weight. I work with a product that helped lose 10. All you got to do is take this product for 9 months, 90 days, sorry. And you can lose 12 pounds, and it varies and that's without exercise, so these are the type of, there are alternative foods out there that we're still exploring, we're still learning, and how they affect the body. And, that's something we should definitely grow ourselves. And then, it was grown in the right soil. It was grown with purified water, or really, the water was good. And you're not really ingesting any pollutants that may be indirectly entering your system, a lot of the times using the right soil alleviates heavy metals and pesticides from being on your crop. If you grew it, you knew there were no pesticides.
Yeah.
So you bought the soil from us, there's no heavy metals. These are the type of things that help you. And we kind of take a growers for dummies approach. Here's one fertilizer, here's one soil, and you can grow what you need to grow.
Yeah, and I think, man, it's vitally important, especially with like what we're experiencing in the economy with all of the different supply chain shortages. Having control over your produce is vitally important to learn. And kind of like what Allan is saying, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a big old farm or a garden, but at least start to educate yourself on the fertilizer, and just the different products that you can use to make different smaller goods, in your home. Because I know even for myself also, when I go to the grocery store, one thing that's very odd to me is that when I go into the vegetable and the fruit aisle, I've noticed that the fruit is way bigger than what it used to be years ago. Now I don't know if that's hormones or what, but who knows what they're putting in these fruits and vegetables, meat. So definitely when you can take control and actually see what type of pollutants, or you can monitor the growth and monitor the portions a lot more better, where you'll be able to quickly identify something like that if you see something growing abnormal in your gardening or whatever crops that you're cultivating. So I actually wanted to transition this conversation. I know that one of your missions with a lot of your sustainability goals is just carbon sequestration. I believe I said that right.
Yeah.
Where it's really the process of the way I understand it. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're capturing, you're storing carbon dioxide, and you're trying to prevent the pollutants from hitting the atmosphere. So you're trying to, I guess, sequester it where it's put more to a better use for the economy. And I read a lot of great things where, you can actually utilize carbon. You can take it out of the atmosphere and you can use it for graphene production, which is made for smart screens for phone screens for smartphones. You can actually take that type of substance and you can utilize it for something like that. So I really wanted you to kind of give a breakdown exactly how carbon sequestration works and what your mission is on why you're wanting to reduce the carbon footprint in the world.
So I kind of, when I took on this, not this business model, because even though we're taking on a big environmental solution, it is always been the mindset to monetize the carbon negative approach, and that kind of bridged the gap for the industry, the agricultural side of things, and then the sustainability, which allows you to truly have a circular economy. So, every plant, as most people know, is that every plant in the photosynthesis process, it sequesters CO2. So what that means is that every time you grow a plant, it is absorbing CO2 at some rate, in order to, as the building block of the plant structure, and as carbon is the building block of life, right? Is one of the building blocks of life, and carbon itself is not something that's going anywhere. It's called the carbon life cycle because it's cycled back and forth. It's not dissipating or disappearing. It's just changing form, and it's either solid in a gas form, or it's found in multitude of in everything that we live in. And what I focused on was, okay, instead of almost kind of deifying or demonizing carbon, it's very it's how we use it, right? So what I embarked on is that I always wanted to kind of do something that my family or my family could be proud of. And both my parents in the military, and I was looking at how could I take what I'm doing and make not only it something. I knew if I could win them over, then I could not even win over, but if I can convince them that what I was doing was important, or they can see that it was important, that I was on the right path. And in that path of trying to make a name for myself in the industry, I saw that the sustainability and environmental solutions with carbon was in my relationship with it, with growing crops. So I realized that I needed a significant amount of carbon when I'm growing crops, and it definitely increased the yields. And when I actually did that, I was able to also be able to use less water when growing the crop. Also, carbon seemed to absorb the water and in the soil, and then allow it to be almost like a breeding ground for microbes. That then, took me on a whole nother journey where I was thinking, well, if this carbon is in this plant, then, and I'm utilizing this plant to make not just food, but, the hemp fibers used to make clothing, and it's used to make composites, and it's used to make all sorts of different alternatives that are not petrol based. These are organic polymers, and these things are really something that for the future we can look at and see, okay, well, why aren't we doing more of this? Well, the main reason is because we have not associated above ground carbon enough with plants, right? Above ground carbon being carbon that's been in the plant itself versus in the soil, in the roots, right? And that's everything that makes up life is made of carbon. So the roots are made of carbon, the plant itself is made of carbon. And if I make a straw like I have on Ecomarketplace, if I make a utensils out of the hemp, that's carbon being sequestered into a product. Now, whether you let that product decompose and how you go about doing that is maybe, there is some carbon that may be released back into the ozone layer. But when you go through certain methods, you can sequester that carbon geologically, which is in the soil. And then therefore it doesn't end up back in the ozone layer. And that's right there is how we kind of break the carbon cycle, where things, if you grow some food, even the tomato, and you grow your food, or you at your grocery store, or if it's a restaurant and they have waste food, that food is going to go to a landfill. And that landfill is going to put it in a pile and compost it. That composting pile is a bunch of microbes breaking down that food, and that carbon is then going to be released back into the ozone layer. So we focus on how to capture that carbon. How do we capture from waste? How do we capture from it even re-entering into the ozone layer? And how do we make products that will keep us from using so much, being so dependent on petrol-based products that obviously are creating a lot of the emissions in our footprint today? So what got me on that was, okay, well, I realized how big it was really quickly. And I realized that I had a certain duty to kind of compartmentalize all this to make it digestible to the regular. So if I can explain it to my mom and dad, then I can explain it to anybody, right? That's kind of how I saw it. And when I was able to explain it really clearly to them, and the steps that we should take, we should always start with agriculture. Then we should go to the industry, and then have sustainability, which then can bring it back all the way to agriculture and creating this carbon neutral solutions or alternatives. It's a closed loop cycle. So it's a closed loop cycle of carbon negative solutions that allow us to reverse the emissions that we already have in the ozone layer right now, while lowering our footprint by introducing products that are not fossil fuel based. And so we can sequester the carbon that's in the ozone layer while diverting that carbon away from these products, then we're on the right path. And yeah, it's a journey to carbon neutrality. It's not we're going to be carbon neutral tomorrow, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to crunch some numbers and see how long is it going to take, or how many acres do I need to grow in order to make America carbon neutral. And I found some surprising information in doing my research and coming up with my own initiative called the Carbon Neutral America Initiative. And this initiative focuses on growing alternative crops like specialty crops, diversifying crops to sequester CO2 at high rates. We found that biomass sorghum sequesters CO2 at 15 metric tons an acre in 6 months. But what I focused on significantly is industrial hemp itself. Hemp, the crop, sequesters CO2 at a very high rate, about 15 metric tons per acre, but it does it in like 3 months. So to give you a kind of scope on it.
I'm sorry, my fault. I just wanted to know what causes it to have a shorter point of time of being able to sequester the carbon a lot quicker than other methods. Like what? I guess that would be kind of good to know with the hemp. How does that kind of speed up the process?
Well, hemp has an uptake like no, not like another plant. When I say uptake, from the roots up to the stalk and the growth period, the photosynthetic period, the vegetative cycle, before the plant produces seeds, before it flowers out, before it even decides to go through the reproductive side of the plant. Its vegetative growth is very fast, and that's mainly because of its uptake. With it, the amount of nutrients it's able to uptake in a short amount of time. But also, like anything else with plants, there's certain varieties or genetics that are going to be, at least they're going to grow a lot faster than others. So I'm not saying every hemp plant is going to do this. What I'm saying is that we've identified the genetics that can do it and will do it. And this is well before I even was on this mission was industrial hemp has been doing this. And all I was able to do is see how we can monetize that on a sustainability focus, but what I didn't see is anyone coming up with how we can offset our emissions on a large scale. Give us a goal we can work to, give us something to work towards. And I said, well, how many acres is it going to take for me to annually, if I were to grow how many acres to offset America's emissions? And it was just me kind of just spitballing, trying to see what I can come up with. And the number was surprising that, we're looking at about only 225,000 acres and, a quarter of a million acres, which is not, it sounds like a lot to us, normal, but it's not a lot. When you talk about how much farmland is in America right now and how much industrial hemp can help a lot of farmers today. That's another thing that, I was talking about agricultural commodities. Industrial hemp's a great commodity to grow right now. We import 70% of our hemp from China. That's a big deal when you're talking about a farmer looking to get returns on their investment into their farm. We're growing a crop that's going to give them what they're looking for. And, 9 times out of 10 as Americans, we're going to buy American over something that's Chinese. And that's just, where we are with it. And, that's a big step for farmers. And it's not a risk. That's the other thing. They're not talking about CBD cultivation right now. We're talking about food. We're talking about hemp seed. When you go to the grocery store right now and you buy hemp seed, it's going to be from 9 times out of 10 is from another country. It's either coming from Spain, Australia, China. That's where you're going to be getting your hemp hearts and your hemp seed and hemp seed oils from. But there are American-made producers right now. And, there are products you can get, like our hemp protein that's made here in America. It might not be on every grocery store shelf right now, but you can order it on our e-commerce website, and we're trying to get it to every grocery store and do wholesale orders. This thing has only been legal since 2018. We are, even though it may seem like things are moving kind of slow, it's actually moving pretty fast. The USDA doesn't really give out grants for farmers that's doing industrial hemp. They don't give out any subsidies for these type of farms, but there is a high value associated to growing hemp grain. And what we've done is that usually when you grow hemp grain and you have a fiber left over, is usually considered as waste. And what we're just doing is utilizing that waste that they consider waste. It's never been waste, but what they consider waste, and repurpose it into something like a straw utensils, and also making that profitable. So for a farmer, you're getting money from the fiber that you're growing. You're also getting money from the grain that you're growing also. And that's a big step for us in this carbon sequestration aspect, because if I can incentivize or monetize the cultivation of industrial hemp, then I'm technically monetizing the carbon sequestration aspect also. And wanted to take a step further and entertain carbon credits. So we're currently this year going through the verification for carbon credits through our method of growing industrial hemp, which is advanced agricultural technology. So, having advanced technology, a sustainable focus, that's what's giving us the edge right now. And, as long as we double down on the sustainability and the technology is always top tier, we'll always be able to kind of provide the best services to our customers and clients that are interested in these type of subjects, which it seems like everyone is now.
Yes, this really sounds like a great solution to climate change, man. You think about how much the ocean, takes in carbon dioxide, or even like what you mentioned about with the fossil fuels, how like a lot of silverware, that's all pretty much produced from, I want to say steel. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm trying to get at is a lot of our products that we're using are based off of fossil fuels, where you can kind of get rid of that carbon dioxide that's actually hindering the economy, and you can put it to other better use cases, such as hemp. So I can really see the advantages with just thinking about this, and I think that this is a very good solution on just reducing the carbon footprint, because if we're going to be here, for how many years we have, we want to make sure that we're living on a healthy planet. And I think if we can take control and be more conscious on what we're putting into the environment, what we're intaking, it can allow us to be able to be more self-sufficient, like we've been discussing throughout this episode. So I kind of wanted to go over like the cost when it comes to a person that wants to get into this type of business, environmental solutions, sustainability. Just from your own experiences, like what are the costs associated for someone really wanting to get into this type of line of work? And then also, like what advice can you give to other Black men or women out there that's watching, that they want an edge, they want to learn how they can be able to develop the skill sets that you have been able to obtain to be successful in this industry? What kind of words of encouragement or things that you could provide to them?
Well, for starters, you're talking about how they could kind of money. Well, for me, it didn't take much money to become, I would say, an expert. Uh, there are courses out there where you can go to University of Cambridge right now and get a degree in sustainability. There are degrees in sustainability right now that can brush you up and kind of catch you up pretty quickly. But if you want my personal opinion, someone who didn't go and get a degree in this, I would use that phone that you have that, maybe you're watching this on, or the iPad that you are watching this on, and I would do some real good research on three major keys. Three major things would be: what are you currently passionate about, right? Then take that, and if you don't have something you're passionate about, what are you seeing that everyone else isn't seeing that you could possibly take advantage on, right? And it might not be something you're passionate about, but maybe you see a business move. Maybe you see a hole in the supply chain that you're noticing no one else is seeing. And what you do is you kind of keep your mouth shut about that for a little bit. And you get on that phone and you get on that iPad and you do some research to see what's out there that you maybe the people around you aren't necessarily seeing it, but maybe someone out there has seen it. Maybe there's somebody out there that is working on that thing that you think that you're noticing that no one else is. And then kind of build a business portfolio on that. That doesn't cost you anything at all. That every day, every one of us have notes in our phone. We can take notes. We can do thorough research. If you really feel like you got something that no one's paying attention to, especially the ones that that is like, this is it, right? When you say this is it, and you got to be quiet about it because you don't want to take your idea, you gotta kind of just kind of divulge a little more effort into building a decent proposal, a decent business model, because then you can know the lay of the land and then say, okay, sometimes you might find out that you are able to collaborate with those who maybe have one piece of the puzzle that you might not already have, you know. And an example with me is that I partnered up and, you know, I was able to take their whole business concept. They were willing to spend millions of dollars to upgrade their process. And I was able to kind of introduce what I knew about hemp, and it changed their entire business model. But they had patents. They had multiple patents, pending patents. And we collaborated, and I just now I have patent protecting my concepts. And it didn't start off that way, but simply by understanding the lay of the land, I was able to kind of position myself because I saw something that they didn't see. And they've been doing this for 30 years, but that doesn't mean that they see it all. It's all about perception at the end of the day. And so that's what kind of positioned me in the position that I can say, okay, I'm open to collaboration. I'm not going to be able to get there by myself, but whoever I collaborate with, I want them to be beneficial to what I haven't already done myself, what I can research and know about but can't do, you know. And that's where that business model plays a big piece, because you know in the business model and you roll out your roadmap, the checkpoints you need to do to get there. And if you don't have to necessarily get there yourself and you can collaborate, you kind of jump right to the front. And that's what it seems to be for everything that I'm doing. And I know it's with anyone else that's doing some type of business where you're an entrepreneur. And, you know, to kind of answer your second question, for those of color, you know, me being, you know, really, I come from a background of a lot of military and government, but it's interesting because, you know, you have the whole other side of your family, you know, and you can always be yourself. You know, that's how I've even made it as far as I have, is I've been myself the entire time. What people respect is the fact that I'm myself and I put in the work. So I put in the work to know I can sit at the table with he's now one of my partners, but he worked with the Department of Energy and NREL for 9 years, right? He's actually done multi-million-dollar funded projects for remediation, for carbon initiatives. And, you know, I'm able to sit at the table with these individuals and hold my own. And that's off my research. That's not off of any paid school. All right. Now, am I saying that you shouldn't go? I say, no, go to school for sure, because that degree gets you indoors that, you know, that are going to open up to you. Maybe my journey wouldn't have been so rough if I had a degree in it first. Right. But at the same time, when you see something that no one else sees, everyone else isn't seeing, then sometimes you don't necessarily have to go to school. You have that, and when you do the research, you have that school because it's giving you that edge. And, you know, for, you know, those black or brown, really, I would look at sustainability as, always let being that you're of color be the cherry on top. Let that be the reason why they hand the money and put it in your pocket at the end of the day. But when there's a choice between 5 of you, to make it a no-brainer, put in the work. You know, sit at the table and be able to hold your own with the best in the industry and those in the supply chains, so that, you know, you always make yourself relevant. You know, you're relevant by knowledge, and then qualified, not by, you know, it doesn't always have to be by school, but by your work ethic, qualified by work ethic, by the time you spent for you to figure out the variables and be 3 steps ahead, always staying ahead. And we have to do that. If you don't know, then you know now that you are going to have to be 3 steps ahead, whoever it is. That's even if there's another individual that is of color, maybe you don't have the schooling and they do, but you want it just as bad as them, then you're going to have to work 3 times harder and be 3 steps ahead so that you can answer all the questions when no one else can answer them. And when someone grills you for 3 hours back to back, you can hold your own. So be vigilant when it comes to your research. And when you say that you're doing something, what worries me is someone knowing about what I'm saying I know better than me, and me not being able to tell them something that I know that they don't know. At least one thing, It's like, yeah, you went to school, you know a lot. And it's like, okay, but I know this one thing that you don't know. And I know it very, very well. So I'm still relevant, right? And I can hold my own in this conversation. So I would say that, and I really would say don't settle. I never wanted to just be okay with where I was at, or even my parents be okay with that. I had a certain expectation of myself where I could not be realistic. If I was to be realistic, I wouldn't have been able to build my business as fast as I have. And so by being unrealistic, but not hurting my own ego when things didn't work as fast as I can. That's what you have to remember, is that, yeah, you're being unrealistic. So you're pushing yourself, but when it doesn't work as quickly as you want, you have to just chuck it to the game and say, well, I put in the work. So this is notches on my, and I'm just building up stripes right now. Like that was, just the battle, the war is still going, and you got to just say, okay, well, next time somebody, comes to me, I got another notch. I've been putting time in the work. And even though it might seem unrealistic to you now, it just always, after each notch, it just seems more and more realistic. It just seems more and more plausible. And eventually it becomes reality because you've spoken into reality enough. You've manifested this in your own head. You start moving differently, start talking differently. And that's the advice I would give to anyone who's of color, is just you are the best influencer is yourself. When you can push yourself enough, but don't let it get to you. If it doesn't work as quickly, that's fine. That's part of the game, and you love it. You should love that part of it, because now no one can kind of take that from you. Yeah, you went to school, but I actually did this. In 1 year, I did what you did in 4, because I pushed myself, and I might have fell short a few times, but here I am in front of you standing tall, and I can stand on my own, and a lot of people can't do that. The experiences is what's making you stronger. And that's what you build upon. That's what you call on when you're sitting in front of these people. You call on all them times when you need that extra push to get you over in a conversation. And you remember that, well, when I lost it this one time, or it didn't work as quickly this one time, I remember that I had this in the books already. I had already built this. I had already constructed this whole concept, and that's when you pull from those times, that allows you to, people see it and they gravitate towards that. It doesn't matter how old they are. It seems like a lot of my business partners now are significantly older than me. And that's fine, because it just lets me know that I've progressed in the hard work, that it almost kind of transcends you into your knowledge and how you can kind of relate. Who can you relate to? I have different conversations now with those who can actually receive the information that I'm giving. And you're going to find that when you find that one thing that you see that no one else sees, and you put that work in, you're going to be so much far ahead. and you're going to find yourself having to simplify things for people. You're going to find, and when you have to do that, you know you're on the right track. When you have to simplify it and your words start getting difficult to say, that's when you know that you're on the right path, you know?
Yeah, man, everything you're saying is on target, man. And I think, some advice that, a person I listen to a lot, Inky Johnson, he's a motivational speaker. He talks about, can you be committed to the process without being emotionally attached to the results or to the outcome? And I think with everything that you're saying, it's just a testimony of sticking to your process, sticking to your plan, and no matter what the circumstances tend to be, whether it's good or bad, you're still giving it 110%. And you're committed to getting to the grind, and never settling and having that competitive advantage. Like you said, you got to have an edge in business, and you have to look at ways of how you can separate yourself from the pack. So when you do go into these boardrooms, you're going into these meetings of whoever you're working with in your industry, you can bring some value to the table. And like you're mentioning, Allan, you can be able to bring something to the table that the other person may have not thought of, like with the partners that you're working with, your strategy around hemp and how that can actually sequester carbon at a faster rate. I could just think of that being an edge, and how that knowledge has allowed you to really separate yourself and really build something that's sustainable. And that's going to have a very big impact in the economy. So I wanted to get your viewpoint on vertical integration. I love how within your business, you have the different aspects from the drone technology that actually fertilizes the soils, from just the seed, the soil, everything from the ground up, and I love how vertical integration to me is simply just owning your own supply chain. So can you kind of talk on that and just kind of getting your thoughts on that perspective?
So for when you see something that other people aren't seeing, not most of the time, you're going to have to develop a supply chain. And that's what you're doing, is developing a supply chain. And for me, vertical turned into circular. So it turned from being a vertical where it's like, oh, from the ground up, which I do. It's I always say we're doing it from the mud. So we're going it from agriculture, from growing something into a product. So it's from seed to sale, right? And, that's a term that's thrown around a lot, right? Seed to sale, farm to table, all those things. That's the same focus that we're focusing on, but I call it seed to sale because I add an additional portion, and that's seed to sale to soil. And that's the sustainability aspect. And that's actually, obviously, allowing ourselves to prepare the soil that grows that seed again, perpetuating the cycle. And as long as you can get, 2/3 of the way, I'm a firm believer of the golden ratio. We can always circle back to beginning and perpetuate where you're going. And I look at that in a multitude of ways when it comes to when you're talking about products and you're talking about being able to develop a supply chain with a vertical approach. And so why I say circular is because everything falls back into itself. But to kind of stick to what you were saying with vertical, I believe that if you can control the input material and then you own the process, then you can always have the most desirable result or output material. And, if you're able to do that, then you kind of like, for me, for instance, I have, hemp protein powder, right? And, my idea was, well, how do I grow the hemp seed? How do I process that hemp seed? How do I then post-process or manufacture that hemp seed? And then how do I package it and how do I sell it? And that process right there, a lot of people think, well, it's, a lot of upfront capital, right? But what I mentioned earlier is once you see a hole in the industry, okay, you can then partner to get vertically or circular or vertically aligned. Most people don't do everything. There's very little companies that are vertically aligned that are it by themselves, right? They have collaborated. Some of them buy a company out, or they merge, and it's in the best interest of both entities. One does one thing really well, and the other does the other thing really well. And what I try to do in my collaborations is become valued in multiple areas. So, I might partner with the grain processors, but I invested into the agricultural side because my drones spread the actual seed itself. So I have an asset. I'm staying 3 steps ahead still. I'm saying, well, yeah, you might be the grain processors, but we grow the grain and we grow it sustainably. I don't know if we are, but I've heard and been told we're one of the first, or if not the first, to seed 100 acres with drones. And that's a Black-owned company. We've used drones to seed, spray, and survey agricultural crops. And it comes in a good benefit because we're able to not only monitor the crop throughout the growth process, but we're also able to reduce emissions because we're not using tractors to seed, or we're not using tractors to spray, or you're not using a plane to spray. And we have those numbers, right? Every time you take a tractor and you spend a gallon of diesel fuel, that's 22.34 pounds of CO2 released into the ozone layer. So every time I use a drone, and you normally use about 4 to 6 gallons an acre. So, about 80 to 90 pounds of CO2 released in 1 acre that's being diverted because you're using a drone. And our drones are all powered off solar power. So we have a command center, and all our batteries are powered through solar. So that's a net zero application. That's something that you can directly see the correlation between emissions that would be released that aren't being released. And that's just one service. We that's just the beginning. And then us having that value makes the grain processor thing, well, that's better for collaboration, right? And then with us saying, well, we have the finished product for sale on our e-commerce website, and it gives them the look like, oh, well, let's partner, and it just makes sense for everybody at that point. So I try to always, when I say 3 steps ahead, I always try to identify like who's in the middle of me getting to where I need to get to. And I always try to get the front end. I'm always trying to be on the front end and the back end and let somebody else do the middle really, really good. And 9 times out of 10, they've been doing that middle part for a long, long time. And all you got to be is the front and back end. And that's identifying who's the middle and being the front and the back. That's your 3 steps ahead in any supply chain. And that right there will keep you on your P's and Q's.
Yeah, man. I think that that just was a lesson, man, that you just gave on how it actually works with your business. And I think that when you can own your supply chain, you can have more scalability because you don't have to worry about outsourcing for someone to actually produce the soil or to actually market whatever product or service that you have. If you can keep it all in house, you can have it may be more costs up front, but as you start to have more margins and profits on the actual output of the good or service, that's going to come back to you tenfold. And I think that I really love your viewpoint on just with the drones and how it's powered by solar power because the partners that you're working with, they see it as a win-win. You know, you're helping, it's value being exchanged from both sides. So I think whenever you can control your supply chain and have that control on the front end and the back end, it gives you that competitive edge, that competitive advantage, you know, in business. So, yeah, man, I just really enjoyed this conversation, man. I think that everything that you're doing with sustainability and just the environment, continue to keep going, man. And for the viewers and listeners out there, I am going to put all of Allan's information in the show notes. But Allan, can you kind of share with everyone your social media so they can follow you, and also if they want to look into any of your products or services, how they can get in touch?
Yeah. You can find the Ace Corp website at acecorp.tech. That's ACEcorp.tech. You can find our e-commerce website at Ecomarketplace.us. That's where we sell our products. And you can also find us on Instagram at a.c.e.corp, _corp. And we'll be, doing a bunch of promotions this year. And that's acquisition of carbon emissions. And that's the long for Ace Corp. And, we're a Colorado company here in Denver. I have my office in Henderson, Colorado. You can reach me at Allan at acecorp.tech. And we could discuss anybody in the sustainability side, agricultural side, even industrial, compostable materials, really big in compostable composites, really big in any type of sustainability approach or events. We're throwing some ourselves this year. We'll be at the NOCO event this year here in Denver, Colorado, at the Hemp conference. And we'll be, staying tuned for anybody that's looking to collaborate, honestly.
That's great, man, and definitely love everything you're doing. You know, keep going, and I'll definitely, everyone watching, I'm going to put his website and his social media so you can be able to get in touch with him. And just want to tell everyone that's watching on the YouTube, continue to like and subscribe and share this video. Definitely helps. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can be notified every week when I'm dropping content. And if you're listening on a podcast, definitely rate and leave a review. It certainly helps and allows me to be able to just see who is listening and watching, and also just broadening the reach with this platform. So once again, Allan, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. I really enjoyed your time, and I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, Kevin. Again, anytime you need me, I'm here. I'll make time, and I appreciate you giving me this platform. It's been definitely it's been new for me, and I actually like it, so appreciate it.
Of course, man. Well, thank you all for watching another episode of Insightful Principles, and take care.